Assalamu alaikum. Peace and blessings upon you watching. This is Fatima with It Girls Entertainment, and I'm sitting here with the Imam Siraj Wahhaj.
My name is Siraj Wahhaj. I'm the Imam of Masjid Al-Taqwa in Brooklyn. It's been a masjid that's been here in Bedford-Stuyvesant area for 32 years. 2 years ago we had our 30th anniversary, and we celebrated with about 1,200 people.
Okay, so this is the masjid.
And among the 1,200 people, there were some really great people there, including Imam Hamza Yusuf, Imam Zaid Shakir, Imam Abdul Hakim Jackson, Most Def, which is Yassine, and Bona Muhammad, I think, is from Toronto, and so many other speakers came to celebrate with us.
That sounds exciting.
Really exciting.
So this is the same masjid that I'm assuming that basically our parents talked about, because I know my mother talked about the masjid where Imam Siraj took over and he separated the ones who wasn't doing right and brought everyone up. She always tells me that story.
Yeah, this is the one. We were blessed. When we first started, it's a very interesting story. I think one of the biggest mistakes I've ever made is, you know how you have the before and after pictures? I should have done a before and after, because when we first came here in 1982, this was one of the worst areas of the city. We had on the block of this masjid 15 crack houses and abandoned buildings. If you look at it today, all the crack houses are gone, all the abandoned buildings are gone, and now it's one of the safest areas in the city. So we had in 1982 not one Muslim business on this block. Now we have over 30. So it has really progressed a lot.
Yes. I don't know if I could have. If I'd have seen 15 crack houses, I'd have been like, "We're gonna move to an area."
We're getting out of here. Yeah. Exactly. But the irony of it is that people kept coming. We started with about 25 African American brothers and sisters. Now today on Friday, Yom Al-Jum'ah, is like 1,300 people.
Really? Where are they going? It looks so small.
It's bigger. Yeah, it's bigger actually when you get inside here. And you go all over and see all the places we have. It's actually bigger than it looks. And because you probably haven't even seen the brother side. So you just saw the little sister side. And so it's an interesting thing is that in 1982, African Americans were 100% of the congregation. Now the African Americans maybe 20% or 25%, because you got people who have every ethnicity, color, nationality comes to this masjid.
Okay. Alhamdulillah. I was watching some of your videos on YouTube because I hear of you, but I never really actually listened to how you come across in your speeches. So I noticed that one of the, I don't know if you noticed it, of course you're probably aware of yourself, but one of the techniques I see that you use is you'll throw a bunch of pieces out there. And it's almost like, oh my goodness, where's he getting at? But then you like to, at the end, pull it together. Yeah. I noticed that. I watched 2 videos right in a car.
That for real?
Yes, and I noticed that. So is that something you purposely do, or?
I don't think I do it purposely. I don't know if I do it purposely. I don't think so.
It's the way your mind is.
I think, yeah.
Because it makes it more interesting, though. And it makes you, what it did for me, that I, like, recollected everything you said, and then it makes you think, you know?
Great.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad.
So it's a challenge.
Well, actually, I'm glad you said that. I'll try to pay attention next time and see what am I doing.
I'm like, he does, because I'm like, what is he? The mountain, the plane, what? No.
Right.
No, but I'm around a lot of people who are not Muslims. I'm around a lot of men also who aren't Muslims.
Sure.
But they think they know, to them they know where they're going, they know who they are, and for them it's just like, I just think there's a higher power and, praise him, But if they were sitting here with you, you come across a lot of celebrities, right? Too, right?
I do.
So what's your advice, and how do you get through to them?
I think that everything we do has to be natural. Most people don't like you to come across as preaching. Come here, let me teach you. I remember one of my greatest moments as a speaker came in 2007. I gave a lecture at the University of Texas, and the title that the students gave me was the Bible Belt. It was like the auditorium was packed. Every seat was taken. Even people were sitting on the stage with me, and sitting on the floor and standing in the back so that it was standing room only. And the topic that the students gave me, and this audience, maybe 96% non-Muslims. Mm-hmm. And the title they gave me is, and this was like a few days before Good Friday, so Easter was right around the corner. And the title they gave me is, "What did Jesus really say?" And I absolutely did not give that talk because I think it's even offensive. Mm. And really, when you say, "What did Jesus really teach?" you implying to them that you don't know what Jesus said. I'm gonna teach you what Jesus really said. So instead of teaching what Jesus really said, my topic was Jesus from an Islamic perspective. What do the Muslims say about Jesus? In that way, everyone is at ease, so we're not attacking anyone, but we're merely giving our perspective about Jesus from an Islamic perspective. And I think, likewise, when we talk to people, it doesn't have to be, well, I'm going to teach you about Islam because you need to know about Islam. It's not like that. We have a regular conversation. And everything that we do, everything that I do as a Muslim, I see it through the lens of a Muslim. In fact, I have several lenses. One lens is as an American, one as an African American, and then one as a Muslim. So we can have conversation, and at some point, I'm going to bring my perspective in. So it's about having decent conversations. So it's very natural. It's very easy. I don't go out of my way to
enforce it, like
push
it on them.
Yeah. Because people don't like that.
Yeah.
They really don't. You got to pick and choose your moments and how to do it in a very natural way. I think over the years, I've grown up to such a degree that I am less judgmental. If there is a Muslim sister not wearing hijab, Allah is the judge on the Day of Judgment. I encourage them to do it. I remember once I had given a talk, and after my talk, 3 young ladies, I think college age, maybe high school, and they were uncovered, Muslim girls, and they said, "Imam Siraj, we want you to give us the verse from the Quran that says a Muslim woman have to cover. Mm-hmm. And we don't want no hadith. Don't give us no hadith, right? We want the Quran." So what I did, instead of giving them the verse, there's a verse in Quran that tells the women to cover, but instead of doing that, I asked them this question. I said, "Do any of you pray?" They said, "No, we don't pray." I said, "Do you find in the Quran that you should pray?" They said, "Yeah, many places." I said, "If you find many places in the Quran that you should pray and you don't pray, what make you think I'll show you one verse in the Quran that you should cover and you'll start covering?" And they said, "Oh." See, because the issue there is not covering. That's not the issue. The issue is faith. And I think instead of browbeating the sisters to cover, just teach them faith. Because ultimately, the more faith you have, then you'll do that. If you think that that's what Allah wants, you'll do that. Just like making prayer. So it's like, to me, going after the root of the problem. We most of the time go after the symptom and not the root of the problem. I'll give you one example. And most people, they have a headache. What they do, they take an aspirin. But an aspirin really is a lie. Aspirin doesn't solve the problem. See, because what happens, the aspirin goes to the area where there's the pain, and it deadens the nerve. So it gives you the impression that it solved the problem. Because the problem isn't the headache. The headache is a symptom of the real problem. If you get rid of the real problem, the headache will go away. Right. But if you take an aspirin, the real problem is still there. But it has the image, that you've gotten rid of the problem. So the real problem is probably some poison in the body, for instance. Get rid of the poison of the body, all the symptoms go away also. I'll give you another example,
That's a really good example.
Yeah, I'll give you another example. There's a fireman, he's in the firehouse. And all of a sudden the alarm goes off, which means there's a fire somewhere, right? Mm-hmm. So what he does, he takes a knife and he cuts off the alarm. And he sits there and says, "I solved the problem." No, you didn't solve the problem. The problem isn't the alarm. The alarm is telling you that there is a problem. Pain that we have isn't the problem. The pain is an indicator for you. You better check it out. Something is wrong. And I think same way with Islam is Islam goes to the root. Though we get caught up with a lot of the superficial. I ain't saying we're covering the superficial. No, it's not, right? Or for instance, a man having a beard. A beard for a Muslim is part of the Prophet's sunnah or his practice, but beard itself is not righteousness. If beard is righteousness, let's go to the park and get a hobo, a bum, and with a beard and say, "Behold the righteous man." No. The beard doesn't make you pious. If you're wearing the beard because it's part of the Prophet's sunnah, then you get credit with Allah. But I don't want people to misunderstand, to think that the secondary thing, the wearing of the hijab or the wearing of the beard, in itself is righteousness. But there's something deeper than that. So I think Islam goes to the root of everything. And really, the absolute root of everything is that there is a God who is all-powerful, all-knowing, and we worship him, that he does everything that he does is for our best interest. I'll give you another example. I know you want to ask me 1,000 questions. But let me give you...
like 1,000 coming after everything you say.
Yeah, let me say, have you ever heard of the Congressional Black Caucus? The Congressional Black Caucus are the African-American legislators. They congressmen, councilmen and women, etc. What they do, they work on behalf of their constituency, which is black. And the motto of the Congressional Black Caucus is that black people have neither permanent friends nor permanent enemies, just permanent interests. So the issue here is interest. What is in my best interest? So Islam, actually, what we believe, the faith is that everything of the religion is for our best interest. That God doesn't give us a commandment to benefit him because we can't benefit him. He has everything. He doesn't need us. He doesn't need us to worship him. But when we worship him, we benefit. When the Muslim woman covers, she benefits. And when we do good and pray, we benefit. When we fast during the month of Ramadan, we benefit. He doesn't benefit. So it's like this is the religion, what we call the fitra of our very nature. It's our nature to be righteous and to try to do good.
One of the reasons why I really stay to myself, you know how some people like to be a part of communities, and I think it's really good. It feels good because my mother brought me up like that. And the community she brought me up in was, I couldn't have asked for a better childhood. But as I got older and I started doing things that weren't right, I was so curious when I was younger. I was such a good girl, but I was so curious.
You're such a good girl.
I couldn't help it. And from my own life, from me, my life being an example for me, because literally Umi, she had me around some of the best scholars. She raised me in Egypt. I went to Al-Azhar University.
Wow.
At the age of 12, I was in Al-Azhar University, learning Fushaf with the Quran and the Quran language and reading and writing and covered in niqab and hijab, and then I come to the States and then a year later, I'm running around with a boyfriend. What in the world?
What happened?
I tried to go back to the community after, and because I was older now, I started seeing things that I didn't agree with.
Sure.
And I thought, and I was so ashamed to go back because I thought I was horrible, I felt like they would see through me. But then I started noticing that sisters were talking about sisters, and it was things that even through the wrong that I did to myself, it was wrong that I wouldn't do to other people. And that made me step back and say, I don't think, and I'm not even the one wearing hijab right now.
Fatima, which is amazing. You remind me of two things that the Prophet said. The first thing, someone asked him a question, what is a believer? And he's answered the question many times before, to believe in Allah and the messengers and things like that. That's the typical answer. But this particular time, he gave an answer that is really spot on. He says, when your good deeds make you happy and your bad deeds make you sad, then you're a believer. And when you think about that, that's great, because you may not have been the ideal, because, by the way, this Friday, that's my lecture, my khutbah here, the masjid, will be the ideal versus the real, right? And the Prophet never forgot about the real, though he put the ideal in front of us, but he dealt with the real, that the majority, because the point that I'm going to make is that what is the state of our ummah, right? So it's not, in other words, there's the very few that's the ideal, perfect in their practice. So when you look at Islam, Islam is a big circle, and in the middle of the circle is the most pious. But then all in this circle, there are all these other people, some right on the edge of the circle, but they're Muslim. They're Muslim. So that and the second thing is the Prophet, peace and blessing be upon him, said, if you feel no shame, then do whatever you want to do. The fact that you feel shame, I'm not really the best Muslim and they can see through me, that's a great sign. That's because that's Iman. That's the faith in use. And was it enough to make you wear niqab? No. You had a boyfriend, okay, but you're still Muslim. You see, and nobody can take that from you. And I am the Imam for the people, if you know what I mean, for those rejected. Oh, you ain't a real Muslim. Those who would judge. You see, Allah is the judge. Don't, this, wherever you are, practice it according to your faith. Try to get better. Keep the idea in front of yourself. You know what? This is what I want to do. I want to be able to. I was on the Saturday morning at LaGuardia Airport, and I'm sitting down, and an African American man comes to me and says, "Assalamu alaikum." Right? Nothing about him says that he's Muslim. Right? There's nothing. I said, "Oh, alaikum salam." So we get in a conversation, and I said, "Oh yeah, wait, what mass did you go to?" He said, "Really, I'm not on it like that. Really, basically, I just got the name, but I, became a Muslim, and basically, I just keep the diet." The Islamic diet. You don't eat pork. I mean, guess what? You know what I'm saying? So, but my point is, yeah, the fact that he even gave me salams, he didn't have to do that. He could have hid it. He didn't have to tell me that, hey, this is all I'm doing, the diet. So it made it, and I only spoke with him for a couple of minutes. He will never be the same. I know he won't. Because they were calling my flight, so I had to leave. But his name is Idris, and so we talked, and I found out, where he lives in Georgia, and what he does. My point is that for me, it's like, okay, you're Muslim. So I know he said, he started to have a conversation with me. He said, but I don't believe in the devil, And I said, what do you mean by that? He said, well, people say the devil made me do it. I said, I agree with that, but don't discount the devil, because probably, brother, it's the devil that's keeping you from making your prayer. So we had that conversation, and it was real good. He said, oh, yeah. So you never know. I don't dismiss people who don't have the visible symbols of Islam, the hijab, the niqab, the jilbab, the jalabiyya, all of these, the beards, and the kufis, and all of that kind of stuff. Allah is the judge. But I'm here to help, to facilitate any way that I can help a person on their journey back to Allah. Because, two of my children who are excellent Muslims today, at some point, like you, kind of fell off a little bit. You would never know. You look at them today in their practice. And the beautiful thing about it is that they came back on their own terms. And now you look at them and say, wow, I'm so proud of them. So, so if I have some children, that not really practice on their deen like that, but I'm not judging them. It's okay. It's okay, inshallah. As you said, hopefully one day you come back.
Can you tell us how you got, I want to know, how did you know it was meant for you to be an imam?
That's an excellent question. I started out in 1969 as a member of the Nation of Islam. And it was there in the Nation that I learned to actually talk to people. You'd never think I would be a public speaker. Afraid to death. I remember when I was in junior high school, the teacher used to call us up, to read in front of the class. Whenever they did that, I sat in the back and I tried to hide under the table because I don't want to speak in front of nobody. I was really too shy and too bashful. But in the Nation of Islam, because I was selling Muhammad Speaks newspaper, I learned how to speak to people, and then joined the ministers class under Minister Farrakhan. And because I was in the ministers class, that's when I began. I don't know what it was. My mother told me that when I was born, my uncle looked at me and said that I'm going to be a preacher. So I was in the Nation of Islam as a minister. So I was over a temple. And then what happened is when the Nation of Islam transformed into Orthodox Islam, so it was a natural progression to go from minister to the imam.
So in the Nation of Islam, you started as a minister?
As a minister, yeah. I was a student minister. What made
and you started that from selling paper?
Yeah, from selling papers.
So from selling paper,
I think I had a... Well, I think it was... In the Nation, we were taught really to love black people, and try to help the black man and black woman. What better way than to be a minister? So we had good ministers in front of us. So I said, okay, I like to do that. So it started with the minister class, and being a minister over a temple, and then ultimately becoming Sunni Muslim, Orthodox Muslim, and just was a natural progression to become the imam and imam.
So the position placed you. So the imam placed you. It wasn't like you went chasing or pursuing it.
Yeah, I joined the ministers class, and then I formally started teaching in the temple, and then it evolved. I was assistant minister. You've heard of Malcolm X.
Mm-hmm.
His mosque was in Harlem on 16th Street, Lenox Avenue. I became the assistant minister in the very mosque of Malcolm X. I was 14 when Malcolm died, so I never met Malcolm.
Meet him.
Yeah, but I became friendly with his wife, Dr. Betty Shabazz. Became very, very friendly. But so my point is, so that very temple where Malcolm used to preach, I was assistant imam. Then I was chosen by Elijah Muhammad's son, Wallace Muhammad, to be the imam here in the masjid in Brooklyn.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So you just. So, but a lot of imams, they're just imams. They don't. How did you begin traveling the world? And
because you don't invite yourself. People, I think I became public in a sense. I attended a conference called ISNA Conference, Islamic Society of North America.
I remember them. They still do them, right? The ISNA conventions?
They do. Yeah. And I used to go to just, to listen. One year, someone said, this guy, Siraj Wahhaj, why don't you invite him to give a talk at the conference? And so I was like a throw-in. They had a person named Yusuf Islam. Yusuf Islam used to be...
I remember him.
You remember him?
Mm-hmm.
Used to be Cat Stevens. He was a very famous...
Singer, right?
Yeah. Right? So, really, the people came to hear him. They were like, right? There you go. You gotta give a little talk. Go ahead, right? But what happened is that when the people heard me, there were about 15 people, when I finished my speech, they came up to me and said, give me your contact. We'd like to invite you to our city. That's when it began. And like the reputation, they were saying, you hear that guy? So, and then before you know it, I'm all over the world. Black people are still troubled in a lot of ways. When you look at any yardstick or gauge of the condition of black people are far behind in every category, whether it's health, education, economy, housing, and all of that. Martin Luther King once said that he who gets behind in a race must forever remain behind or run faster than the man up front. So there are still some problems. When you say, how can be a problem? We got a black president. We've had mayors, that's black mayors, and governors, and but still, the majority of us are not there. So we've excelled in sports, but still, but as a Muslim, we're not just concerned with black people.
Right.
But it's not wrong to be concerned about your people and try to for their advancement.
Mm-hmm. Well, I just feel like I'm black, and I am a woman, but I just feel like I've done so much, Siraj, with my daughters being single, with no child support, with no welfare.
Right.
I've excelled to literally, when I see it in my head, is I got it. I don't know how I'm gonna get it though.
Great.
So I just feel like I don't believe it's a black thing anymore. You know.
Well,
I think it's literally like a mental thing.
I think yes. I think you're right, but still. The thing that I was talking about earlier, as a Muslim, I say the same thing as a black man, that you are the exception rather than the rule, in my opinion. And I think there's too many, for whatever reason, still haven't made it. They still don't get it. No matter what you say, and I agree with you, that a lot of it is a head thing, but still they're calling out. They still need us. Our goal to try to help them. So I get you. I got your point. Alhamdulillah, well taken. But still, there's some issues, some problems unresolved.
But is it a black? Because when someone says it's a black thing, I'm saying, okay, a black thing as in what? They won't let you get a job because you're black. You get what I'm saying?
Right.
So at that point, it's like, well how long?
We don't. Well, yeah, I agree with you. We don't disagree. Fundamentally, we agree. There's some still residue of racism here and there, but
I believe, yeah.
You know, I mean, you got the number of incarcerated blacks, for instance, young black men in jail, and all of that. So I think nothing now that's stopping us except ourselves. We stop ourselves. I do think there's some remnants of racism. It's not like it used to be, in my opinion, but still, in looking at all of the measurements of success, black people still appear to be on the bottom. So that's a reality that exists. We can argue about, the social scientists can argue about why is it still like that. And on one hand, you could say, from your perspective, it's your fault. If you're on the bottom right now, it's your fault. There's nothing right now that's hindering us from making progress. And I think that's the case some of the time. However, I still think there are some problems that we face in general because of our blackness. Like, I'll give you an example. You know what the life expectancy of the average white woman in America is? The life expectancy of the average white woman in America is 80 years. Do you know what the life expectancy of the average African American man in America is? 68 point something. But that's a man. Female's a little, maybe it's like African American woman, I think like 74. So it's more. My point is that there's still some disparities. Right? So we leave it to the social scientists to figure out why. Almost everybody that I read agrees that there is still some issues